Senator Cornyn in the first hearing kind of alluded to this. I just wanted to underscore it once again, which is the amazing speed that we've seen from the pharmaceutical companies when it comes to COVID and the development of the vaccines. I worried sometimes we kind of lose sight of that, but I do support the bill, and I think it is something that's overdue. I just want to proceed with caution, I guess, and make sure that we do this right. The first thing I would say for Mr. Abbott is, what we did experience, many different facets of life change during COVID, and one of them was that occupational licensing laws were waived as a result of COVID. And what I'm wondering is, if there's any examples out there of laws that policymakers that we should look at before we reinstate them, because it might be an opportunity. Maybe it's not. It might be an opportunity to kind of revisit some of these licensing laws and make some changes there, both at the federal and state level.
Thank you, Congressman. I think you're right about licensing laws. I think obviously there's certain minimum safety standards that are required in medicine, but there are many licensing laws that prevented, as I say, interstate movement. For example, why couldn't there be some sort of interstate compact, or better yet, some sort of national standard for medical licensing, and that could allow for easier entry and movement and easier service of rural clinics. There's the issue about that was raised about rural hospitals. Certainly, it's closure is a problem there. The antitrust agencies do recognize that small hospitals can generally emerge free from antitrust scrutiny, except in most extraordinary cases. But that doesn't deal with the problem of closures and some loss of revenues due to the COVID crisis. I mentioned already certificate of need laws. I think some leading economists suggest that any subsidies through ACA should probably, if it could be redirected more towards patients, not providers. Better allow patients to shop around, and in fact, nationwide provision of insurance, looking at state commissions that unnecessarily limit insurance policies. That has been called for as sort of sensible reform given the interstate nature of that, among other things.
Very good. Just one quick question for Dr. Feldman as well. Over the last couple of weeks, I've met with a number of grocery stores in my district. Some are single store operators, and then there's some that are local chains, I would say state chains of grocery stores. Didn't meet with kind of the big box ones that we're familiar with. But in that environment, what they were all trying to relay to me was that there were supply chains that changed and were kind of segregated out as a result of COVID. And it shined a white hot spotlight on their industry, and was fascinating kind of getting their feedback. And they were worried that some of the antitrust in that area is just, was created in the 30s. It's outlived its usefulness. But I'm wondering, in the discussion we had here today, I mean, you can go too far too. And I'm just wondering if you had any comment on that.
Thank you, sir. It is important that antitrust keep pace with changes over time in many different ways. And I was struck both in that question and also with your earlier comment about the COVID-19 vaccines and keeping all of the experiences that we've had in mind so far. The COVID-19 vaccines are a spectacular example of science in action, but also of government industry participation. After all, government funding here and at academic institutions across the world helped bring this great innovation forward. And it's a good reminder that patents are not the only important way that governments can promote competition. It's important for us to have government funding and increase government funding for basic research, but also to provide incentives for all students in, elementary school to graduate school to enter science careers. Our future really depends on those types of initiatives, not just the patent system.